Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Mojisola Wilson, and this is Authentic Conversations with Moji. Welcome. Ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi o, bàbá ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi. Ìbànújẹ́ o, jẹ́ kó jìnnà sílé mi. Wàá múnú mi dùn, bàbá onílé ayọ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ ayọ̀ mi, má jẹ́ kó pa mí lẹ́kún. Ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi o, bàbá ṣílẹ̀kùn ayọ̀ mi. Ìbànújẹ́ o, jẹ́ kó jìnnà sílé mi. Wàá múnú mi dùn, bàbá onílé ayọ̀. Ọ̀rọ̀ ayọ̀ mi, má jẹ́ kó pa mí lẹ́kún. For those of you guys that do not speak my language, which is Yoruba, all I'm saying is, it's a prayer, it's a song. It says, open the doors to my happiness, oh God, open the doors to my happiness, and whatever makes me happy, may it not bring me tears. For this particular topic, that's a very important prayer. My name is Mojisola Wilson. Hang tight. I'll be right back. Hello and welcome back. Thank you all for being here. If you're actually here and you can hear me, please say hello so I know that you're there. This topic I've been pondering upon for quite a while now, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. But a lot of people come to me and they ask me questions about this, because I'm a licensed New York State real estate broker. I get a lot of conversations come my way that normally I would probably not be privy to. So I hear a lot about generational wealth. A lot. Everybody's talking about generational wealth on social media, on Clubhouse. People are talking about generational wealth, which generational wealth is a very amazing thing, right? It's a great thing. My question is, what is wealth? Because a lot of us don't stop to think when we talk about wealth. What is really wealth? I mean, are you rich or are you wealthy? And what does rich look like to you? And what does wealthy feel like to you? Because being rich might be because you make money. Being wealthy is because you have a portfolio that makes money for you. A lot of people are rich because they work. So I often ask, if you stop working today, will you still be able to maintain your lifestyle if you could not go to work? A lot of people work to make money as opposed to making the money, make them money by having investments, by having stocks, by having real estate, by having, all kinds of businesses that align with each other. I'm Nigerian. And right now, it's all about money for most people. They don't care about values. They don't care about integrity. They don't care about how they make that money. They just want that money. And very often I sit on Clubhouse and I listen into these rooms with the younger generation, and they all about money, making money. I want to be rich. Honey, rich can happen. Because if you're Nigerian, $2,000 makes you a millionaire. But what can you buy with that? Can you buy peace of mind? Because for me now, of course, I'm older. So peace for me is wealth. What does peace, what does generational wealth mean to you? What is generational? When you talk about your generational wealth, are you talking about leaving it to who? Most people are thinking, I'm going to leave money to my children. I'm going to leave my generational wealth to my children, my family, my friend, my dog. While doing research, I found that a lady died and left all her money to her dog. But in her will, she made provisions for her dog. Whoever is taking care of the dog anyways has access to the money. So for that lady, she left generational wealth to her dog. Whatever floats your boat, that's what you ought to do. But here's my take on generational wealth, especially in the African-American community. And when I say African-American, I mean Black community. And then I'll narrow it down to African community, which is what I, Moji, know. Hi, Dotun. Right? So let's start with basically the simple question. Are you wealthy or are you rich? Tricky question, isn't it? Are you rich or are you wealthy? Let me tell you the difference between being rich and being wealthy. A person that's rich has a lot of cash flow, right? Or, in my opinion, anyways, has a lot of cash. You have a lot of cash flow, but you understand that inflation, depreciation, whatever goes on in the universe will affect the value of your cash flow, right? Most wealthy people invest in things and people that will continuously bring them dividends. What do I mean by that? Most wealthy people invest in real estate, they invest in stocks, they invest in businesses, they even invest in startups, right? You find somebody that's coming up with a new idea, a new invention, you put your money behind that person. The people that gave Mark Zuckerberg money to start Facebook became billionaires when it went public. They became wealthy, right? Gazillionaires, I call them. They became wealthy. Most Black people think being rich, which is where you're going to work every day and collecting a paycheck, and you're comfortable and you can buy Louis Vuitton and buy YSL, Yves Saint Laurent, and all those designer brands makes you rich. What I learned is that poor people are too busy trying to look rich. And wealthy people are always consistent, because when you get to a particular mindset, when it comes to wealth, it's no longer about what you wear. It's no longer about what you have. It's no longer about the cars you pull up in, right? In real estate, I remember they used to say, fake it till you meet it, till you make it, honey. So while you're faking it, you're incurring a lot of debts and all that stuff. And I learned later on in life that my new slogan is not fake it till you make it. My slogan is work it till you make it. I repeat, and this is original from Moji. It's a quote by me. Feel free to use it. Make sure you give me my credit. Work it till you make it. We need to stop faking it. We faked it so much on social media now. You don't know who's real. You don't know what the color of people are. You don't know what people are thinking. You don't, because everybody's faking it, right? You don't know who's who. A lot of you guys sit on platforms with like gazillionaires and multimillionaires that are willing to help and want to help, but because of the bouzbaz, because of the ratchetness, because of the crassness and uncouthness, most people retreat. Now, let's be fair. A lot of people do not know the difference between being wealthy and being rich. Rich is a temporary state of being, which is when you have cash, and that's my definition, so don't go Googling it. But for me, when a person is rich, it means they have little money they worked for. When you're wealthy, you have your money making you money, making you money. And then when we talk about generational wealth is not you dying and leaving your children with money. I repeat, oh my God, one of the most beautiful gifts I've had in the past 10 years, actually, one of the most beautiful gifts I've had is being raised by my father, who always told me, I owe you nothing but your education. I repeat, my father was very comfortable. I mean, yeah. And he always told me, I owe you nothing but your education. I remember coming home one day and I was talking to somebody, one of my classmates, I think it was primary school, and I was running up and down and saying, "Oh, my father is rich. My father is rich." And the girl says to me, "Okay, let's go ask your dad." Dundee United. So me, Dundee United. I dragged my friend home, and I said, "Daddy, can you tell her that we're rich? We, as in, yeah, we." My father's like, looks at me, looks at the girl, looks at me, looks at the girl, and says, "We are not rich. I am rich. You have to go out there and make your own money." And my dad was true to the core. When he died, there was absolutely no money left to anybody. I mean, he didn't have a will. And I don't think he thought he would die, honestly, because I think he would have been a bit more responsible. And like you and I, we're not thinking we're going to die any day soon. But the truth is, we all can die. Anybody can die any day. And this is not a curse, because church people will be saying, God forbid. You can say God forbid till you die. And I mean, you turn blue in the face, honey. We're all going to die. But nobody knows when they'll die, which is why this conversation is very, very important, right? While we're working and building our wealth, We have to start to ask ourselves, before we have children, before we get married, we have to become a bit more intentional about how we plan to live our lives and who are we working for? What are you working for? I have friends that worked every day of their lives, never taking a vacation, never going anywhere, never doing anything for themselves, not even eating in fancy restaurants, because you know me, I like food, right? I'm a foodie. No shame in my game. We work so hard to raise our kids. We pay their education. We pay for this. We pay for that. Most Nigerian parents will give you a house. They'll pay for your wedding. Pay. We're not preparing our children for the real world, right? These are the people, most people want to leave their wealth, generational wealth, to their children. So you acquire all this money, properties, but you never teach them values. You don't teach them the value of a dollar. So they walk around thinking everything comes easy, right? So we don't teach them values, integrity, compassion, empathy, all the things that makes the world go around. We don't teach them that, especially in Nigeria. I was talking to a friend of mine in Nigeria, and entitlement. Thank you, Miss Eisner. I was talking to a friend of mine a few days ago. She lives in America. She has like children in Nigeria, and every day they're calling for this. Her son wants an iPhone 14. She's like, I'm on iPhone 8, and I run businesses off of my iPhone 8. Her son is upset. Her son's not talking to her. And so she calls me. I'm a certified life coach. So she calls me for a session, and we sit there and we talk back and forth. And I said to her, I said, so has your son ever had a job? The boy is about 22. Never had a job. She's always paid for everything. She brings him here in the summer. She works 3 jobs. So she had him raised in Nigeria. So not only did she lose out on being there for her child, because she was too busy trying to make money to make him look rich. Because, I mean, if you're working 3 jobs as a nurse, you know you don't have time to enjoy your own money. So you buy a house, and your house, you're working to maintain the house. Then you send your children to Africa or Nigeria so that you can work more, so that they can look good in Nigeria. What values are you giving them? Wow. Do we even stop? See, let's start from the basics, folks. When we're talking about generational wealth, generational wealth. You go on Clubhouse, generational wealth. Most families that do have, white people have been doing generational wealth for years. I know we're just understanding, because we're just acquiring generational wealth as Black Americans. But in Africa, everybody's Black. The thief is Black, the president is Black, the doctor is Black. I didn't know I was Black until I came to the United States. Every time I say that, people are like, they crack up. Honestly, I didn't. But when you think about generational wealth, what generation are you leaving this wealth to? Are you going to leave it to the Gen Zs? You know, there's an article I read yesterday where the Gen Zs that were in medical school, I'm going to put the article as a comment, they got a professor fired because the professor was requiring, his standards were too high. How many of you would allow a doctor that was a C student to treat you or operate on you in school? Please just say I. Just say I will. I thought, you know, what happened to excellence? What happened? This generation that we're in right now, most of them have a sense of entitlement because of the way we raise them. It's not their fault, though. It's the way we raise them. Because, and I'm not blaming us. I'm saying we need to realign our mindsets and understand that suffering, challenges is what made us successful. So when we make life too easy for our children, guess what? They become lazy, they become complacent, they become self-entitled, they believe everything should be given to them. They no longer want to work for things, because if you're not willing to work for grades, my God, look at that. Right? So when we start to think about generational wealth, it has to start before you even have the children. Before you have the children, you must ask yourself, what kind of parent, co-parent am I looking for? Am I looking for a co-parent that wants to buy a Louis Vuitton couch while I'm looking to invest money into stocks and bonds for when we get older? Generational wealth is supposed to be a structure. You have to have systems in place so that that money continues to roll over and make money for the people that you're leaving behind. You have to make sure that the taxes are in place. Now, a lot of times people talk about generational wealth because you're rich. We're not thinking about the values that we're given, because that is generational wealth. The values. Are you walking with integrity? Are you cheating on your wives? Because that's generational wealth too. Have you created a trust to run the wealth so that your children can do this or that or that? You cannot look at the Ford Foundation, right? Till I think 10 generations deep, they're not going to be poor. So not only did the Ford Foundation create, right, a foundation to help other people, they also created money stashed away for their children, but there's rules and guidelines. A friend of mine, the guy's about 85. I sat with him, I think about 2 weeks ago, and I do this thing where I like to talk to older people, because the older I get, the more I realize that, oh my God, we need to start talking more to elders so they can pass on the wisdom that they have, right? So I've been talking to a lot of older people, and the man said to me, he said one of the best things that he did was make his children, even though this guy is a Gazilonia, and I'm not going to be dropping any names here. Gazilonia, I mean, when you talk about wealth, whoa. Real estate mogul. He said to me, the most important thing that I did for my children is allow them to pay for their own education. I was like, why would you do that? My father paid for my education. He said to me, people value what they pay for. I repeat, the young gentleman said to me, people value what they pay for. Whoa. A bell went off in my head. Because I realized that a lot of the younger generation that pay for their own education, they take it a bit more seriously. Our last son went to school. Of course, we wrote a check, paid the whole tuition, board, everything. And then a couple of dollars in the bank. The boy ate $3,000 in food in less than 2 months. You think if he was making $10 an hour, he would have done that? No, he wouldn't have done that. Then he didn't go to class for a month by choice. Do you think he caught up? Of course not. In the meantime, the parents had shelled out tons and tons of tens of thousands of dollars. When we don't allow people to understand the value of a dollar, we can no longer be talking about generational wealth. And in the African American community, and no offense to anybody else, but in my community, what I see that we leave behind is a lot of generational curse. Moji, you're so mean. No, the truth. I'm sorry. I choose not to sugarcoat things anymore, because look, I'm at that point in my life where I don't really care. My money does not depend on anybody. My income does not. You can cancel me all you want. You cannot cancel my voice. And I'll continue to speak my truth from experience. Now, when we talk about generational wealth, how are you leaving $1 million to somebody that does not even know how to manage $100? How are you leaving $200,000 to a person that does not understand how to manage $100? So you have, like a friend of mine that I spoke about on the post, whose father worked since he was 16 in car dealerships, sweeping the floor and things like that, and he worked his way up. And then about 10 years ago, the man who I sold the house to in Staten Island finally bought his own car dealership. Kid never worked a day in it. Not a day. The father paid the tuition. The father pays everything. Even paid for his wedding. I mean, your father is paying for you to do the jiggy on a full-time basis. Shukwu to all of you. I ain't doing it. But I learned thank God I learned from other people's mistakes, because what happens is that when you pay for people's wedding, they don't value it as much as when they pay themselves. That's one of the reasons why people are just getting married yafun. Because in America, there's a thing where the parents chip in to help you pay for your wedding. I think it's stupid. In Nigeria, your parents pay, period. And I think it's a husband's parents or something that pays for it. If you notice that the level of divorce is so high, if I didn't pay $75,000 for a wedding, why would I care if I get divorced in a year or two? Why would I even consider who I'm marrying? Why would I settle for less when it's not my money that we're using to pay for this, right? You got to start thinking about generational wealth before you get married. If you're a man and you're thinking about generational wealth, you've been working all your life, this man who worked all his life, bought a car dealership. The guy was about 70, something when he died last year. Imagine you buy a car dealership that you've always wanted all your life. You're now 60 years old, right? And you're thinking generational wealth, generational wealth, generational wealth. He leaves the money, everything to the son. He doesn't investigate to see who wants to continue this legacy. Most of our children don't even want what we have. One of the reasons why I don't do retail real estate anymore is because I got tired of driving Miss Daisy. I'd been doing real estate for 30 years. I still love helping people. I love, my whole life is about helping people these days. When I went into real estate, I went into real estate to help people. My children don't want to be that. One is a hair and makeup person. The other one is in marketing. They don't want to do real estate. They didn't want a part of it. So I revamped my business to a referral business. I still do real estate, but I'm doing it differently because I'm not going to work till I drop dead so that my children could have the business. Like this gentleman, his son sold the business, took all the cash, the life insurance, everything, and bought. He didn't even take his father's house and expand it. He took his father's house, he took the business and he sold it. And then he sold his father's house and bought the biggest house on the same block his father's house was on. The most expensive house. Not even worth it. And then he went and dumped so much money, marble tiles, overdid the house. So the market value, he put marbles in the backyard, put marbles everywhere, put in an in-ground pool, put this, put that. In 6 months, the money the guy left this young man was gone because he didn't have the tools. Nobody taught him how to. We talk about emotional intelligence a lot on this show. We have to start talking about financial literacy as well. When your children are being given money, what are you giving them money for? Are they earning the money that you're giving them? Are you helping them to start a small business? I'm guilty of this. I must tell you. The only person that has a business is my oldest daughter. And she decided her thing was hair and makeup. She's been doing my hair since she was 12. So by all means, knock yourself out. And she seemed to be happy with it. And for me, when you have generational wealth coming down to your children, who are now people and have full autonomy of what they want to do with their lives. Because in the past, we used to force people into businesses that they don't want a part of. So if you know you want your name, your legacy to be continued, we're going to talk about 3 ways to do that, right? Now, 3 ways to pass on your legacy. My name is Mojisola Wilson. Do I want my children, whose last names are different from mine, to take the money that my wife and I worked for all our lives, all of it, and now take that money and go become Mrs. John Doe or Mr. John James, which has nothing to do with the Solo Wilsons? I thought this through before I came to this show. You should be paying me for this, but you don't have to. Just send me some stars. We'll be cool with it, right? So imagine Solo, my wife and I came together. We became Solo Wilsons. We work our butt off. We work 7 days a week. We travel the world, speaking and doing whatever it is that we do. And we are working hard to leave a legacy. We had to ask ourselves, my wife has absolutely no children because she's consciously child-free. She didn't want to give birth to children. It doesn't mean she doesn't like children. Are we going to leave our whole estate to these 2 sets of people that have nothing to do with us? Our names, once we give it to the children, goes away. So when my wife moves on and I move on, all the work that we've done with our life now goes to last names that have nothing to do with us. So our names become extinct, right? Generational wealth. So one of the things that the financial planner and the lawyers taught us to do was create a trust. The trust is Solo Wilson, blah, blah, blah. And under the Solo Wilson, blah, 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 there's this, there's this that goes here, there's this that goes there. There's a not-for-profit that we created to educate Nigerian students. 100 years after we don't die and Pafka, Solo Wilson will still be there because we created a trust. And there's rules and regulations as to what they can do with the money, what charities that we created to help LGBTQ, which is the African LGBTQ, charity to help students that are underprivileged, Solar Wilson Guardian Angel Scholarship Program. And it's all under the umbrella of the Solar Wilson Foundation. That way, the Solar Wilson name stays here forever and ever and ever and ever. And people will continuously benefit from our existence on earth. Imagine you give birth to a person, because you guys like to call them children. I no longer call them children, they're people. I learned the hard way, honey. So you give birth to your child, right? Your child or children. And for those of you guys that have blended families, so Mr. Mahan Man is married to Mrs. Jane Jones. Now, I'm Mrs. Jane Jones's mother, and I leave generational wealth to Mrs. Jane Jones, right? No, to Mrs. Mahan Man, right? Now, because she's taking on the Man name, my generational wealth goes to her, but now it's transferred into the name of Mahan Man. So the Man family has inherited millions of dollars or naira, whichever way you want to look at it, that they never worked for. In the meantime, the Solar Wilson name is erased. Think about it. Let's assume Adedoja Odutayo is a man and he's my son. So Adedoja Odutayo, who's my son, now marries who? Let's say Miss Cheryl Eisner, right? The money transfers to the Odutayo last name, which is my last name as well, right? Now, if they turn around and have daughters, and their daughters marry Mr. Naim, now my generational wealth transfers to the Naim family. My name is extinct. That's money and wealth that we're talking about. We already talked about the fact that there's a difference between being wealthy and being rich. Being wealthy is having enough money that will continue to make money for you. That's wealth. Being rich is having currency that you're working for every day of your life. So because you're working for that money, right? You're working every day for that money. You're not rich. You're not wealthy. You're rich. Because if you stop working, poof, all the money goes. Or if you're Puff Poppy or Posh Poppy, whatever the guy's name is, right? If you're a Hush Poppy and it's only a temporary thing, right? Guess what happens? Igbe don't knock. Because as soon as, every day is for the thief, one day is for the owner. Boom, the day you're caught, the wealth, you're not wealthy, you're rich. And when you look at people that are working, making $50,000, $60,000, and they're buying a bag for $2,000, $3,000, they have a rich mentality. They don't have a wealth mentality, because people that are wealthy have money that makes them money. So that even while you're sleeping, your money is making money. How do you do that? You buy land, you buy homes, you buy properties, you invest in the stock market, right? Generational wealth is a topic. So now let's go to the generational. We already spoke about generational wealth, and we'll come back to generational wealth. Let's talk about, what are you leaving? The topic is, what are you leaving behind? Generational wealth or generational what? Generational what? Are you leaving behind generational curses? That one I can talk about from today till tomorrow. Generational curses. When you're getting married, are you looking at the person that you're getting married to? Are you looking at the family they come from? Are you asking yourself, who am I dating? I'm a lesbian woman, so we're now marrying each other. If we decide to marry each other, what does that family line looks like? Is this the kind of family, if my partner dies, they're going to shave my head? Generational curses. Are we looking at how we're running our lives? Now let's go to the Black people and God, please. I am not Willy Wonka. I am so not going to sugarcoat anything. So if you have a weak mind, this is the time to exit. I have no issues with anybody not agreeing with me, but there will be no cursing. There would be no booze bass on this show. We don't do that. I have posted the link to the show. If you want to come in and talk about this with me, that would be amazing. Let's go to generational curse. I always talk about me first. I love my father to death. I loved him with every inch because it was a single parent. He raised me. Here's the thing: generational curses. My father had 12 wives, 31 children. A lot of his children are kind of sort of jacked up. We have all have mental, um, not psychosis, right? But we all suffer from some kind of mental illness, anxiety, depression, fear of being left behind. Because when you have a revolving door of different stepmothers coming in and out of your children's lives, you're not giving them there's no way for them to feel stable and have their feet planted, right? That's number one. Number two, when when you have children by more than one person, most of the mothers are really scrambling for what they can get for their side, for their children. They're not working on a collective, unified front to make the family name better, right? When Black people start talking about generational wealth, let's start with generational parenting. Let's start with fathers staying in the house. Let's start with mothers not having babies like rabbits. Let's start with mothers or women not having 10 baby daddies, because it's very traumatic. And I'm not saying real life doesn't happen. I have two sets of kids by two sets of different parents. And then I'm married to the love of my life because it took me so long to come out of the closet. And that's part of the problem of our Black community, is that we're not allowing people to be their authentic selves. Because if I had known that it was okay to be gay, if I had been left alone, if they had not used the Bible to smack me over the head, there was no reason for me to go and jump and marry a man. It was totally unnecessary. But when we start talking about generational wealth, we have to remember that generational curses are there as well. Are you allowing your children to be their authentic selves? Because that's part of how the generational curses starts. You have to remember that if you choose the wrong partner, which there's no guarantee that you will choose the right partner, but at least if you take the time to get to know who you are, you will understand what it is and who it is that complements you. Not complete, so, because you're not deficient in any way, but complements you. But our society does not allow people to be themselves. Our society does not permit people. Like, one of my brothers wanted to be an artist, and my dad is like, no, absolutely not. Ships him to the UK, pays for all this education. My dad's dead now, and the kid is now an artist. We have to start to allow people to be who they are. That's part of the generational wealth. When you allow people to be their authentic self and bring their whole authenticity to the table, they will help you grow your wealth. For me, generational wealth is not about money. My job is not to make money so I can leave it to my children. And they know that, and I've told them. My father didn't leave me jack. I will help set you up while I am alive, and then you have to do the rest. But you have to come to me with an idea of what you want to do, and I'll help you build it. But I'm not in the business. I'm no longer. I used to be one of the I used to suffer from Dondigitis. Trust me. I was one of those people that suffered from Dondigitis. I have no shame in admitting it. Where I wanted to make everything super fabulous for my kids, what I learned is that it doesn't work. You become a doormat, and they will use your money and spend it. And I'm not saying all kids are like that, because we have to stop calling them children. These are people. Once they hit 10, they start to think for themselves. They start to discover who they are. They start to discover what motivates them. My job is to open their mind's eyes to different careers, take them to see hospitals, take them to see architects, take them to see this or that, unless they come to me with something they're passionate about. And now it's my job to help them to nurture it and grow it. We talk about generational wealth a lot, not understanding that the generational curses that we hand on to Black people, for instance, this notion that we're still this enslavement mentality where we believe that white people owe us everything. First of all, none of the people that are alive today, as far as I know, my age, and I'm 58, own slaves. Maybe their fathers, their grandparents and all that. But I didn't choose to be born in Nigeria. Honey, if I had a choice to be born, I would never have chosen to be born in Nigeria. They didn't choose to be born white either. So this notion that white people are white supremacists, all of them as white supremacists, That's part of the problem why we can't grow. Because we are not able to look at ourselves and say, hey, what can I do differently? What do I need to do to change the systemic racism that's affecting us all across the globe? Do you think racism is going to go anywhere? We have racism in Nigeria. We just call it tribalism, where the Yorubas think they're better than the Igbos. So they shouldn't have access to certain things, where the Hausas who wield the power don't have access to education. I continue to tell people education is a passport to your freedom. Whoever is benefiting from you not being aware is not going to help you to become aware. So it's best to keep you ignorant and continuously tell you how you can't do something because you're black, how you can't do this because you're black, you can't make money because you're black, you can't become the CMO of a big corporation because you're black, you can't become the executive vice president, you can't become a real estate broker, you cannot own 40 acres in America because you're black, because the white people won't let you. It's a lie. Those are part of the generational wealth we need to break. I'm not saying go and tell your children that the same, they're going to get the same treatment as white people. I'm not saying that. I'm saying teach your children to know that they can do anything they want to do. This rhetoric of they're killing our black sons, they're killing our black sons that I grew up with. When I started to have children and I happen to have sons, I totally infantilized them. I repeat, and I'm guilty. I have no shame. I'm going to tell you. But I learned a lot, and I'm going to continue to pass it on to people that want to listen. Everybody is not going to listen. But let me tell you this rhetoric of they're killing our black sons. We need to stop that. We need to start teaching them to walk with integrity, to walk with compassion, couth. Self-respect is earned. Respect is earned. It's not your birthright. I repeat, compassion is something we all deserve. But you can't be doing scoring things and now think, everybody should respect you for what? Why? We as a black people need to stop telling each other that we cannot become something. Your mind is the greatest weapon you have. Educate yourself. Keep fighting, keep pushing. And people tell me, oh, it's because, don't tell me it's because I'm where I am. No, it's not. I didn't start here. And even if I did, when I fell, if it wasn't for the integrity and the compassion and empathy that my father had instilled in me, and the couth that my father and people around me had instilled in me as a child, I would not have made it. And I have fallen a lot of times, but I've gotten back up, brushed myself up, went back and learned a little bit more. Which is that's how I know we can do this. If my wife can start in Obalende Market, where her mother sold provisions to put her through school, and be a executive vice president and a chief medical officer of a Fortune 500 company, anybody can do it. I have dyslexia. I own a real estate company. Anybody can do it. You can do whatever it is that you put your mind to. The thing about it is that we all need to start to think outside the box. And Miss Cheryl Eisner, I'm going to highlight your comment, and I'll do it because unfortunately, black male are held to high standards. That's not true. That is so not true. And I'm tired of hearing that rhetoric. That is so not true. Actually, they're held to lower standards because we have allowed the society to look at them as weak people. We have a lot of us have raised our sons to become weak individuals. I'm sorry, that's my opinion, and I respect yours, but I don't think black men are held to higher standards. If black males are held to higher standards, why is it black women that are holding up the black men? Why is it that black women are always the ones that are paying the price for everybody else to become better? We are raised to become amazing human beings, and the black men are sheltered and shielded from the pain that we black women go through. I don't believe that rhetoric anymore. I'm sorry. I think all black people are held to a higher standard, and more so women, because women are especially heterosexual women. At least I'm a lesbian. I can look for another woman, but let me tell you, go and do your research. I spend a lot of time looking for data. Statistics shows that Black women have much more college educated, and there's a lot of nuances that goes into this thing. Black men were enslaved, just like Black women. Black women were raped by the colonial masters, just like Black men. Black men, unfortunately, they find very threatening in those days, probably still, right? But they're killing Black women as well. Racist cops are killing Black women, but you hardly hear about it. Like, our lives don't have any value. Our lives do not. I don't understand. If you disagree, Sonate Adekomi, please come in. I put the link on. The link is there for you to come to the back channel. Let's go. Let's have this conversation and really make something of it. Because Black women are raised to be wives, parents, mothers, right? We are raised with a lot more responsibilities than Black men are. So when people say, oh, Black men, there's so much more expected for black men, that's just, I think it's a fallacy. I think it's a lie that we've been told. I think we're all expected to, we're all held to high standards, but more so women. A man cheats on a woman, a Black heterosexual man cheats on his Black heterosexual wife, and it's the wife's fault. It's a woman's fault because she wasn't thin enough, she wasn't smart enough, she had nappy hair. There's always a reason why Black women are responsible for the choices of Black men. So when somebody comes here and says Black men are held to higher standards, we need to start holding them accountable for their choices. We need to start making them, Black men, accountable for what they decide to do with their lives. I'm a Black woman. I raised 2 Black women and 2 Black men. I know where I went wrong with my Black sons. I know I bought into that rhetoric. They're killing our Black boys. All our Black boys are in jail. 1/3 of the Black men are in jail. Yeah, because they did stupid, right? Because a lot of them did a lot of crappy things. That's why it's important to start raising children, not with the fear of the Bible, but basically integrity, compassion, empathy, and things like that. Values, not focused on making money. But a lot of us parents were running around trying to make money, trying to build. We're trying to build wealth. We're trying to become rich so we can create generational wealth. What we end up leaving behind is generational trauma. We're so busy. I have friends that work 3, 4, 5 jobs, and I'm guilty. I used to work 14, 15 hours a day, and a housekeeper and a nanny raised my children. And I'm not saying people shouldn't be busy and have nannies and things raising their kids, right? I'm not saying that. I am saying, thank you. Yes, I agree with you. A lot of us don't understand something because we are considered less. We have to prove. We have to do more so that we can get seats at the table where laws are being changed. Let me tell you. There's so much I want to say, but it's not time. Because, this new way of wokeness that I see out there, most of these people that claim to be woke, most of them are in a coma. Look at the way people are engaging, and then on social media, false realities. They don't even post their normal pictures. They're editing. What you see is what you get with me. Right here. This is me. This is my real face. This is it. Aside of foundation and stuff, this is my real face. People edit their pictures. You can't even tell what people look like anymore because wokeness. People's voices are being shut down because people don't want to hear the truth. People don't want to hear the truth. Women's rights are being eroded to create spaces for other people instead of just creating spaces for other people. Women are always brought down. We are always the ones that have to sacrifice for men to make something of themselves. Miss Cheryl Eisner says, white males can get things with less qualification. Of course, systemic racism is what we're battling. It's not the white people that are racist. It's a policies put in place. So how do we stop that? How do we get rid of that? We get rid of that by getting ourselves into places where we can, I repeat, do things for us. We have to be able to change these laws. But if we're all basketball players and all we want to do is high rollers, look at the music of the 90s. That's part of how we got here. When you're telling young women to go and to the way to be popular is to be half naked so they can see your ovaries and womb and things like that. That's how you end up with a generation that people were having children by the time they were 12, 13. What are we doing? You want to leave generational wealth? We're going to have to start to change the structure of our society. And I'm coming to you, Sonata. But I hope why don't you come into the studio so that we can understand each other? Because texting, sometimes you lose out. But when we're talking about generational wealth, we really have to start this generational wealth thing from the foundation. And we need to start leaving broken kids that we want to leave generational wealth with. Because if you give money to a person that's not whole, mentally, physically, and emotionally, that money is going to be wasted. Now, our Kojenu Sonate, I think, says, but I think Black men should do more for their family in the area of being available for their offspring. Black men have to be held. Bosa. Part of the problem is that we have not held Black men accountable. We keep making excuses. Like I said, I have 2 sons. One is 21 this year. The other one is 19. We are not raising Black men to stay in the homes, to be accountable. We're giving them, a man cheats on his wife. I keep saying, my father had 12 wives. What? Why? A man cheats on his wife, we blame the woman. A man has a child, he walks away. And the woman is left holding the bag. A lot of us women, look, let me tell you, if I knew what I know now, when I gave away all those houses to my ex-husband in exchange for custody of my full custody, because I didn't think it was responsible enough, I should have let him keep the kids, JJ, and me go out and make my life. Bottom line is, we have to start making Black men more accountable. Because we keep talking about generational wealth, generational wealth, generational wealth. Generational wealth without structure is zero. Because all you're doing is being rich and becoming rich, working your whole life, becoming rich and passing the money on to your children, and then your name disappears. For me, generational wealth, for me, Moji, is not how much money I leave behind. Generational wealth for me is how many people has my being alive touched their lives. That's what generational wealth means to me. Generational wealth does not mean that your wealth, your money, your real estate, your stocks has to go to your children. If your child is a crackhead, are you going to give them your wallet today? If your child is not deserving, does not know how to manage money, are you going to give them your checkbook today? If you're not going to do that, then you need to you need to start building them. You need to start raising and training your children to be ready to take over from you. For me, it's more important that my name stays after I am dead. How many lives have I touched? Who did I help? As I'm walking, I must now allow my children to see my footsteps so that if they choose to come behind me, they can innovate. All the things that I have done, they can do better and build on it. A lot of you are going to leave your money to people that have no financial literacy, and that money is going to go away. Because this whole thing of generational wealth, without a will, you guys are in trouble. Because you go to an African man and say, hey, Oga, I think you should get a will. They'll tell you, are you trying to kill me? No, get a will. So that when you move on, you decide who gets what. Who gets my iPhone? Who gets my stocks? This one gets this house. Everything is laid out. What I find is a lot of rich, wealthy people dying with houses across the globe. No will in place, nothing in place. So that when they die, the children start fighting. I know of families that are in court 13, 14, 15 years. My father's properties, I don't even know who lives in them. Not us. All these bank accounts he allegedly has all across the world, in Swiss, in UK, we don't have access to it. The guy died in 2006. Hectares of land in Otta, hectares of land in Ijerikiti, where they have we have semi-precious stones. The property is now leased out to an Indian family who's taking out those semi-precious stones, refining them, and making gazillions off of it. While my father's family is making peanuts from leasing the land. Now, imagine if the man had trained or asked any of the children that might be interested in it, we would have learned what he's doing, his construction company, his shipping company, his oil company. Think about it. But instead, other people are enjoying his labor because he never thought about putting systems in place to protect his estate. If you will not give your wallet to your son or your daughter, I repeat, those are not the people to leave your money to. That is not a generational wealth. That is a generational curse. If you die without a will or a trust, that is not generational wealth. That is generational curse, because a lot of the families will start fighting. It'll create a division within the family, and people will no longer speak to each other or be friends with each other. Families fall apart. Every time somebody dies, families start bickering and fighting and things like that. So you left your generational wealth, and now it's a generational curse. There's a lot of families that have mental illness because of the way their father or their mother lived their life. And I'm not here to tell you that I did any better. All I know is that I did a lot of research and I worked on myself. If you truly want to leave a generational wealth, let's start with values, integrity, compassion, empathy. Because when you build your life on that, I have learned, and my God, I fell. I had to fall to get where I am today. A lot of you guys you're in a position now where you're going through your joke moments, where you're learning all the tools that you're going to need when you get where you're going. Or you're looking for people to save you. Sometimes when somebody offers me help, sometimes I say no. Because sometimes there's a class I need to learn, and if I get saved in that moment, I'm not going to be able to attain the wisdom I need to get to the next level. God is a comedian. He lets us fall. Because people don't value what they don't pay for, which is part of the problem. When we start to talk about generational wealth, we have to look at the generational curses that we're passing on as well. Are you one of those fathers or mothers that's cheating on your partner, heterosexual, while your parents are looking, your children are watching you? You're passing on generational curse. I don't care how much money you're leaving them. Those kids are going to be jacked up. Those kids are going to go from one home to the other, not really having a sense of what? They're not going to have a sense of worth. You're leaving money. I know many families who left money, generational curses. They left money. They left money to their children. And one child decides, because I'm a man, Nigerian family, because I'm a man, I should take over the whole thing, and leaves the other people hanging because the first child has a right. But imagine if the father had created a trust. He had created, like, your trust can say, this is the businesses I have. This is the son I think or daughter that I think is going to mind it. And that's another thing. Nigerians, Africans, Black people, we tend to think our sons are the only ones that can carry on our names. In today's market, you can add your name. Moji Sola Wilson, Shukura, let's say Anike Smith marries Sonate Akojimu. Then your name now becomes Anike Smith Akojimu. So both names are in there. That way the generational wealth that's transferred to Anike Smith kind of sort of stays in the family. But your name never goes away. My name staying after me is so very important to me, because I don't want to just come here and disappear. Oprah's name, and I'm not anywhere near Oprah, but Oprah's name will forever be in the mouth and hearts of people because of the lives that she's touched, but also because of the foundation, the school that she created. And she's set this school up with billions of dollars that 50 years from now, 30 years from now, the school is still going. Guess what? If Oprah had children and she had left that money to her children, she might have touched maybe one, two, three. If she had 4 children, maybe four. The 4 children have another 4 or 5. She might have touched 100 children in 20 years. But she has a school that touches about 400 students every year. 5 students, 400 students every year. Now, that is a legacy. That to me is generational wealth. When you create a legacy, right, where your name is in a foundation, right, that is the best way to go. And stop telling you, even if you're leaving things to your children, stop telling them. Stop talking about generational wealth, because what it does is that it makes people complacent. It makes people lazy. It makes people not study. It makes your people, your children, I call people because I don't believe they're children. In my head, for many, many years, when I called my children children, I infantilized them. I could not see them as full human beings with full autonomy. So now I call my children people. So your people, the people that God has given you for you to help, to guide, to make the world a better place, that you have infantilized, will spend your money yafun. You've never gone on vacations. You never bought yourself that fancy car. You didn't buy anything extravagant because you were saving the money for generational wealth. Why? Why are you supposed to come to earth to suffer so that your children can go ahead and be doing scoing stuff? I'm not saying all people are bad. I'm saying the generational wealth that works because there's structure implemented. This person gets that. This is what we're doing with the money. The money in stock, the dividends will be used for X, Y, and Z. I prefer my name to touch many lives. I think it's very selfish to think generational wealth, you want to leave it to your children alone. Honey, the poor will become so hungry, I read somewhere, that they will eat rich people. First and foremost, let's decide what is wealth. What is wealth to you? Is wealth cash or is it values? Because I know a lot of people, wealthy people, that don't have a lot of zeros in their bank account, but their values continues to propel them and puts them in the right circles, in circles I can't even get into because of their values. What is wealth to you? Is it having Louis Vuitton? Are you going to leave your whole collection of Chanel bags to your children? Granted, you can sell them, but you never get the retail value for it because now it's used. How about you go on vacation, spend some of that money on yourself? I get a massage every week now. I do. Sue me. I work hard. A lot of you guys are not living. Living. I don't know when I'm going to die. I could die tomorrow, next week, 10 years from now. Provisions have been made for that. If I die tomorrow, she can know. I have a will. I have a trust. My wife is there. She knows what's up. God forbid anything happens to my wife. I understand what's up because we had the conversation. And my children and I have had the conversations. But a lot of you walk around telling your children, oh, I'm going to leave you money. Oh, when I die, you're going to get this. When I die, you're going to do that. So they don't work. And half the time, what you have is debt. Because if you're in America, it's not like Nigeria where you own your house outright. You own your car outright. In America, most people are walking around with debt. You and the bank own the house till you're fully paid for it. Have you bought life insurance? You're talking about generational wealth. Do you have life insurance to pay off your home when you die? No. But you want to be talking about generational wealth. What are you leaving? Your car? Some people die and then they're in people's inboxes begging for money to bury them. But yet you want to talk about generational wealth because you're wearing all your money Like I keep saying, just because your ass is on it does not make it an asset. So even after all this 10, 15, 20, 30 years of you not doing anything for yourself, not doing anything for yourself, because you want to leave generational wealth to people that do not have financial literacy, to people that you have given generational curses to that are not mentally prepared. You know, you can't leave your money, your generational wealth, with a structure in the form of a trust alongside a will. When my child turns 21, give her that amount. When my child turns this, give her that amount. I have a friend that wrote into his will that if his son, his wife was rolling, if his son did not get an MBA, they should not give that child the business. Because if you don't have the education to be able to maintain my business, why should I leave it to you? Why should I leave it to you again? We need to start to identify people around us that will leave. Look, let me tell you what, one of the things that another friend just did. I was like, whoa, I didn't think about it that way. An employee that worked with my friend, right? And my friend is 75 years old. I have a lot of friends. I have friends that are 18 and friends that are whatever, older. So what my 75-year-old friend did was appoint the employee as the executor of her estate. Because her children are baby kids. All they do is spend money, fly across the globe, go for party here, go for party there. And she looked around her and said, who can I trust to do the right thing? So she made provisions for an employee in her will. Because the employee understands her vision. The employees understands her passion. But we're too busy talking about generation. Who is your generation? Say your baby kid that's going to parties and spending $10,000 a night is the one that you think you'll leave money for? People do that because they didn't work for the money. Nobody that works really hard for their money is going to take $10,000 and spend it at a party in one night at the age of 23. A lot of us are not speaking the truth anymore because we're too afraid that we'll get canceled. I recommend 3 things. Generational wealth, when the conversation comes up, ask yourself, what does wealth look like to me? Am I rich or am I wealthy? Because for me, when I did my research, the families that have integrity, whose wealth is built on values and service, they are the ones that continue to grow. The Kennedys are all gone. The JFK Kennedy, family, all the kids are gone. But that name stays on because they have a foundation, right? That name stays on. And even John Kennedy went to the best of schools. He was trained as a lawyer. He couldn't pass the bar for quite a while, but eventually he did. See, when you're not getting your children prepared, because we live in this cool world where everybody wants to be woke, where everybody has rights, there's no more boundaries to anything. No boundaries. How can you not have boundaries? I'm telling you, I laughed yesterday because gay people, we don't even know how to do monogamous relationships because we're just discovering. 2014 is when it became legal here to marry your partner. Now they're talking about monopoly, polyamorous, what? Can you slow down a little bit? And let's just get a grasp of this thing so we know where we're going. We're allowing our children to go through surgeries to transition. And we're doing gender reassignment. Have you seen what those things look like? Nothing wrong with transitioning, but we need to stand still for a moment and study and see what will happen. Generational curses. A lot of you guys are doing crazy things on social media because you want to be popular. You want to trend. You're leaving a legacy behind. You'll make that money, but are your children going to be proud to say they're your children? A lot to think about. So when we're talking about generational wealth in the Black African community or the white community or the green community, honey, we need to remember that the worst thing to do is to leave money to people that are not equipped or don't even know what to do with the money. A lot of children or people that have been left with large sums of money become alcoholics They become junkies. They become sex addicts. They become, because you can't just, Yoruba people say, Omoju or Larry. When people have not earned something, they don't value it as much. This sense of entitlement that we have in 2022, that's part of the problem, where we're just giving things to people without making sure that there's recourse, there's requirements, you have to earn things. Just giving it to them, yafu yafu. I found out the other day that the average salary of a public school teacher in Nigeria is 25,000 naira. I don't know if it's true. A lot of people came on that thread and said it's true. But yet, women are walking around with weaves. This is a wig that I made Nigeria, that costs 250,000 naira. Because they have sugar daddies and sugar mummies and all that stuff. And we're not paying attention to how they're making their money. Are you making honest money? Because your children can see it. You're teaching your children how to be. That's generational curse. When your child comes home with a brand new Louis Vuitton bag or a Mercedes Benz that you know their salary doesn't cover, are you asking them questions? Or are you one of those parents that, it's money? The African American Black community across the globe, we have to do better in parenting. And you got to stop talking about generational wealth, because at the end of the day, honey, if you tell a 10-year-old from the time they're 10 to the time that they're 25 that you're leaving them your money, you're leaving everything for them, why should they work hard? Make them work for your trust. And I'm not saying don't leave them money. Structure it in a way that they don't even know that you're leaving them the money. My dad told me all of my life, I'm rich, you're not. You need to go get your money. And those words are the words that I held on to. Most people that become successful in life, sometimes it's because they have generational wealth, but the generational wealth is structured in a way that you have to work the money to make you money. We can no longer excuse Black men because they're killing our Black men. That's a whole nother topic. Because you look around the world these days, in the African American Black community across the globe, part of the problem is that we are not making men responsible. And this is not because I'm a lesbian, this is because I'm a mother of 2 Black sons. And this rhetoric that they expect more from Black men, no, we don't. We infantilize Black men. We act like they don't have full autonomy of themselves. We make excuses for their choices. We give them all kinds of leeway. We blame women for the choices that they make. How can you have 10 kids by 7 different mothers? What's his name? Just had his 10th kid. And people are shouting, oh my God, yeah, he has enough money. He's a millionaire. Really? Is he? How much time is he going to have to spend with those 10 kids? Because he's going to be responsible for the child support. And in America, if you have 2 kids, in some states, it's 25% of your income. Well, some states it's 17. Imagine 5 women getting 17% of his income. How much money does he really have? He's going to have to work till he dies to support those kids. Now, he has no time to spend with his children. He has no time to spend with the mothers. The mothers are going to be very crabby and nasty and mean because they'll be tired. I don't care how much money you have when it comes to emotional currency. None of us have enough. The children are going to have a sense of abandonment. The children are going to not feel worthy because their father was never around. How many women have married men, heterosexual women have married men to fill that space that their father left behind because their father was never available emotionally? Guilty. I had to work 20 years. It took me to work on myself to become who I am today. But I see so many brokenness around me while people are talking about generational wealth. Generational wealth should be sit at home, pick your right partner. Yes, mistakes happen. People don't have families, stay together all the time, but understand that you have to invest your time. Money does not buy happiness. What it does is it enhances one's joy. The foundation years are the most important years of a human being. So I don't care how much money you leave your children. If you don't give them emotional love, if you don't give them the time, if you don't spend your time currency with your children, if you don't show your children how to treat women as men, Oga, take your generational wealth and keep it. Because we need to restructure our family's foundation as Black people. So you guys are jumping on the bandwagon of generational wealth, honey. Generational wealth starts with you staying with your children's mother. And if the relationship doesn't work, don't walk away from the child. Spend time with this child, show them the way so they can build on it. 50% of African American homes, and somebody can Google that for me, are headed by Black women. We are tired, we're exhausted, we're mentally and emotionally drained. Now, y'all want to come talk about generational wealth. Let's deal with the generational curses first. And then we can start talking about structuring this whole thing. So we're not just handing out money to people that don't have financial literacy. The same way a lot of people don't have emotional, whatever it's called, intelligence. Emotional intelligence we don't even have. Because a lot of people work 10, 15 jobs, not knocking anybody that works 10, 15 jobs, because I did the same. But I'm speaking from my walk. That's my opinion. It's not written down in stone anywhere. You're working 10, 15 jobs. You don't have time to train your children. You think you can throw money at them and everything will be great? You know how many people have money and commit suicide? Because their father was never there. Their mother was never there. They had no emotional currency spent on them. But they wore the best shoes and they wore the best designer labels. What values are you giving your children? That's part of the, what? Generational wealth. We have to do better. And before we get to leaving people currency, we have to help them be mentally astute. We have to help them by being emotionally healthy. That to me is generational wealth. Because you give 10 million to somebody that's not mentally together, they're not going to be able to carry on the money. They will squander that money. Your name will disappear. So I think we should start thinking about three things. Let's start investing our emotional currency into our family. And for me, Muji, family is not just blood. Family is not my children. No. Family is the people that show up and show out. Start thinking about how to help to make the world a better place when we're talking about generational wealth. Do you have a foundation? Do you have a trust that's set up to help pay people's tuition? Do you have a trust that's set up? Because if you give all that money to just your own, I don't believe in leaving money to children. I really don't. Maybe it's because my father didn't leave me a dime. But because my father didn't leave me a dime, that's why I did. I'm successful. I'm sorry. I had, he gave me what he could while he was alive. I didn't get a single spoke of tire from all the wealth that my father has. And it's not because I'm gay. It's because I chose not to fight anybody for money I didn't work for. So how about you start telling your children, instead of talking about generational wealth, I'm going to leave money for my children. Leave it, but don't tell them about it. Show them how to make their own money so that when you leave that money behind, they can build on it and not just squander it. Black people, my people, which includes me. A lot of us are living behind generational curses because your actions ricochets 3 generations deep. Your sons as men see you cheating on your wife, cheating on your partner, running around with this babe, this 22-year-old perky-chested person. And a lot of you that are LGBTQIA, that are married to the opposite gender, if you think most of your family don't know you're gay, they do know. Because when I came out, my children told me that I was gay. I wasn't even dating women. I had no idea until I allowed myself to go there mentally. We have to do better. Generational wealth is an amazing thing if you're able to structure it in a fashion where your name, your money can do make the world a better place, not just for your children that are not trained in financial literacy. Make your children earn their way early in life so they understand the value of a dollar. As Black people, we need to start to repair the foundation of the family, because without that, we are not going to be able to maintain generational wealth. It might pass on to one generation or two generations, but it's not going to last a lifetime. I want my name to last a lifetime. I worked hard in this lifetime, and there's no reason why I should hand it to somebody that is not prepared to carry on that legacy, because we as parents drop the ball in training them. We as parents drop the ball. Notice I'm saying we because I'm guilty. As parents, because we didn't spend our emotional currency on our children to help them become whole, to help them exercise that emotional intelligence muscle, to help them get grit. We didn't want them to suffer, especially us that are immigrants. We didn't want them to suffer the way we did, forgetting that the suffering that we suffered is what made us successful. Generational wealth is a beautiful thing, but your children do not have to be the ones that you hand that over to. You can make provisions for that. But let's start looking at people, or start training people. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be your housekeeper's son that has shown that they can manage and run your business. It could be anybody. It could be your PA. It could be your whatever, right? And you can still make provisions in the trust for your children to have money. But if you're looking for generational wealth, honey, you need somebody that's going to run the business so that the business continuously makes money. Because at some point, that money is going to run out. We're not all Jeff Bezos, and we're not all going to be Elon Musk, but we all can create a little wealth or a big wealth that we can pass on. Again, generational wealth does not mean you have to give it to your children. It could be anybody. Make your children learn how to be whole, healthy, respectful. Teach them integrity. Teach them how to earn their own money. And then, and only then, will they learn how to make the money that you are leaving behind, or the wealth that you are leaving behind. Wealth could be culture, it could be family values, it could be houses, planes, whatever. We can do better. Generational wealth is a topic, and I want you guys to please understand that if a person is not sane, if they do not have emotional intelligence, and if they definitely do not have financial literacy, there's absolutely no way that your money will continue. And if you are not careful who you're having children with to begin with, if you're having daughters and you think the generational wealth is going to stay in your family tree without making provisions for it too, it won't. Because when Moji marries so and so, usually we assume the names unless we're hyphenating it. But if you have a trust and you have a will and you have a structure and an executor that's neutral from your children, especially those of you that like to have babies all over the place, which is another thing we got to stop, but that's not the topic, then generational wealth makes sense. Personally, I don't believe in leaving anything for anybody. Whatever I have to give you, I will give it to you while you're alive, which includes your education, your business, helping you start up your business, but you got to run it yourself. To all of you guys that believe in generational wealth, shuku to you. But please do us a favor. Now that Black people are talking about generational wealth, let's learn how to do it right. I repeat, let's learn how to do it right so we don't, 10 years from now, we're not looking at a whole bunch of people that have too much money too quickly and they're destroying the world because their values are kind of jacked up. We're coming from the 90s. My name is Mojisola Wilson. I thank you so much for being here. It's been a great conversation, and thank you so much for your contributions. Please share the video for me. Send me some stars. Make me feel fabulous. Right? Anyways, share the video, like and subscribe. I think that's how you say it if you're on YouTube. And definitely have these conversations amongst your friends, amongst your family members and things, and come up with your own ideas that work for you. For me, this is where I am on my journey. And believe me, it's been a crazy roller coaster of a ride. One day I'll share more stories. But generational wealth, we have to start to think about a better way to structure it, or a way to structure it so that it works and our names continue to stay on while we're gone. One last thing before you go. If you work hard, play hard, because you never know when you'll go. My name is Moji. Thank you all for being here. Namaste.